All right, so let's talk Reno versus discount. Right. So, generally speaking, when someone's going up and selling a house, there's especially that there are a lot of houses now that are a little dated, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it hasn't been refreshed since your grandmama lived there.
Around here, Queen, Flushing, but absolutely.
You're gonna have a lot of that, and so usually we'll say either look, spruce it up, or cut down the price, right? And for me, that's gonna be right how the comps work, right? Look, if all the houses in that neighborhood are about the same quality and condition,
Yeah.
we're good. But if everyone on the block has updated their floors, the walls, paint, and you're the only one that's still stuck in the 80s, sorry, you're not gonna. It doesn't really make sense to have the same price, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, with that said, how do you approach, or rather, what is your general logic or your thoughts on whether to renovate or not?
If I'm an owner of the house,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you choose to renovate, the fact is you're highly probably not getting your money back, especially depending on the level. You know what I mean?
Of trim and
of if you're doing high quality finish, oak cabinets in the kitchen, Viking appliances, and your kitchen costs you $60,000-$70,000, and then you're throwing two bathrooms full bathrooms that cost $20,000-$25,000 a pop, and you drop 120 grand, you're not going to see that return. Mm-hmm. You'll see some return, right, because obviously now you're comparable. You're an updated, renovated property, so you are going to see a return in value. It's like putting a system or rims on your car. Right. You might have spent $5,000-$6,000 on it. When you sell that car, you're not.
Yeah, swap back.
I mean, obviously the car is also depreciating, but
right.
There are definitely renos steps you can take that will increase your value, and you will get your money back. Like painting.
That's a big
changing. Painting is huge. People. I always like to say, $1,000 renovation can add $10,000 in value to your home. A $10,000 renovation can add, $100,000 to your home, or $50,000.
But it has to make sense.
Right. A nice professional paint job, so maybe some crown moldings, resand floors, restain them. You can relatively not break the bank with that, and you'll see a nice return. It'll right, change the whole scope of the home.
And for me, let me be the devil's advocate and go the contrary, right? You got the dude, like you said, you got, Italian marble flooring. I got these, handcrafted wood trim and all this other, and he's like, look, I spent $500,000. Sorry, boss. But the rest of your block is not doing that. And so that does it. Unfortunately, that $500,000 you spent, you're not going to get $600,000 for it. You might not even get $250,000 value from it, right? And so generally nowadays when people are asking, I'm just like, look, your options, again, will be either renovate. And my caveat is most renovations that when I ask what they plan on doing, it's usually the bathrooms, usually the kitchen.
Yeah, of course.
Right? And so
those
it's
are the most intensive.
Right. And so I'm at that point of like, look, when do you need to leave? Right. He goes, well, we're thinking about the next year. So I'm like, then honestly, it's tough for me because if you're okay with the idea that you might enjoy for that year, well, minus construction time, right? Then maybe you get to enjoy the house, and then it's not that much of a loss. Financially, it is, but at least you get to enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Right. So
use is part of the value.
Absolutely. And so for me, it's like, look, if you are thinking absolute just dollars and cents, I'd rather just give the buyer a credit for the difference. Well, not all of it, right? But negotiate down some kind of deals, and you're done with it. Now, the one interesting thing that I found was obviously paint and trim, right? One little caveat that I found was garage doors.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like outside aesthetic.
Yeah.
Garage door, even a front door.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Repaint it and do it well. Please don't have some like dude for $20 on a weekend.
Yeah.
Have it properly done, because I didn't know this to that extent, but a person who does it actually correctly, you shouldn't see paint lines. You should. And I thought it was a given.
It's a new garage.
Yeah, and then I had someone who's like, I spent $300, and look at it, I'm like, this looks like garbage. Like he just took heavy like oil paint and just like slapped it on. I'm like, this looks horrendous.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, look.
Yeah, doing it bad can hurt you.
Yeah. And as I was looking through articles, one thing piqued my interest. So there's two articles that in this particular one. There's one from Wall Street Journal, and there's another one from Risk Media, and it does highlight the point that uh, more and more, and you would think that in this kind of market, people just take, look, if it's a house, I'll buy it. But there, and people are going to point fingers at millennials, but the trend seems to be that more and more people are less willing to gamble on a fixer upper, right? Like me
Yeah.
personally, I want the fixer upper because that's where I get my value.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely.
Right? But the prospect of there's the time and the money it takes to do these type of things, and more people are hesitant to risk that. So rather, they would want something that has been updated fairly recently or a fresh reno, which in our industry, for me, when someone says it's freshly renovated and listed immediately, I get nervous. Because for me, it's like, did you weekend warrior this bad boy? And it's like,
Yeah, what kind of quality? I
Right.
mean, and you mentioned, you gave an example where the guy does, $600,000 worth of work. In the end, Reno is is a matter of taste and opinion, right?
Mhm.
That guy that he imported Versace tiles and bamboo floors. No, I mean, and all the highest quality finishes. You might walk into it as a buyer and be like, yeah, I hate this.
Mhm.
I didn't want this color wood. I don't like this wood. It's soft. It dents easily. It's porous. I can't stand quartz. I want granite.
Mhm.
I wanted glass, a glass backsplash, and
Mhm.
so it's all kind of subjective. I think if you are planning on leaving within a short time frame and you do want to maximize your return,
Mhm.
it's like, apartments, when people redo apartments and you have units, you're not doing high quality.
No.
You're not doing cheap. You're doing just so it's new.
Mhm.
It's new and it's nice and it's amenable and people, it's livable.
Yeah.
And it's not outdated. You're doing just enough. So
Right.
if you were going to do renovations like that,
Mhm.
but it's still an intensive process. If you're gutting a kitchen and it's a lot of work.
Right.
So when I found my house, the budget I was looking for at that time in Flushing, Whitestone, where I was looking, it's kind of still similar. Everything was outdated. You were getting a certain type of house, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, detached ranch, etc. But everything hadn't been renovated in 25 years.
Right.
But, I was willing to do the work. And the difference is, I probably got that house for, $150,000 cheaper,
Mhm.
and, $200,000 cheaper.
Mhm.
And if I was willing to do the work because I wasn't living in the house immediately. So I was willing to drop 70, 80 grand, get a new kitchen, new bathroom, new floors.
And it's to your taste.
And it's to my taste. It was made in my vision, like
Mhm.
my house. It's mine. Everything was chosen by me, my wife, so there is value there.
Mhm.
But like you said, going under work like that, a lot of people, I get it. We don't want to deal with contractors.
Mhm.
Interviewing contractors, a lot of them are not true to their word. Time, they say it's going to take 8 weeks. It takes
8 years.
8 years. Yeah, man. The first guy I used, he did a good job, but he said it would be done in 7 to 8 weeks, and it took 4 months.
Jesus.
You know what I mean? The end result, it's kind of worth it because you're happy, and then you're like, you know what, it's done. But a lot of people don't have the experience. It takes even longer. And
Of course.
If you're living in the home and your refrigerator is in your living room because you gutted the whole kitchen,
right,
it can be a problem.
Right. And that's actually bringing up an interesting point, right? Because actually, my first year as an agent, I had 2 listings. One was in downtown Flushing. The other one was that one was the year after. But there was one in Brooklyn, but both were dated. Where one was used as an investment property, the other one was a private residence, hasn't been fixed in decades. Now, both times the buyers would walk in with a contractor and they start walking through things, and obviously they're like, "Yeah, we could go top to finish, gut reno, and just call it a day." But I believe for my Brooklyn listing, it was one of those like, "Look, we got to move in, man.
Yeah.
And so we can't do this whole
total gut reno. Yeah.
And he's like, "Look, just so we're clear, it'll cost you more, but that is absolutely doable. You figure out what order.
Yeah.
I could recommend things in terms of workflow, but
we'll
let's
do
say
one bathroom, we'll use the other.
correct. And for me, it's like, that is a thing, right? And I think part of the nightmare is that people think, oh my god, you can have like 30 dudes rolling to my house. There's gonna be dust everywhere. And look, there will be some dust, but he's like, look, the way we operate, for instance, is we will put film over all the work sites. So you might get some dust, but it's not going to be to the extent where you think that. And so that does put some buyers at ease. One of the other things that I found interesting was the idea that, and this was and granted, this contractor was a little more expensive, but he goes, look, just so you know, for instance, especially when we work on the kitchen area, we'll try to find if it's something that you're okay with, we'll make you a makeshift kitchen for now.
Yeah.
Right, and it's like it's not you're not gonna no one's gonna look at like that's a great kitchen.
That with me, you can leave the sink, you can leave the stove, and as long as the fridge is plugged in, you're not gonna be able to eat in the kitchen and prepare food, but you can have the most basic stuff. You know what I mean?
And in this case, what he did was there was like a big pantry closet type thing that was on the outer wall, and so what he did was he ran. Let me just make sure I got this right. I think it just so happened that the water plumbing was just on the other side of that, so he just ran the plumbing, put a one of those like laundry type sinks,
right? Like a slop sink,
right? A slop sink, and then he just ran a line. He goes, "Look, this is your cooktop for now." Right. So you're like, and if you need something, obviously the sink in there will leave because we're not going to move it. But I would imagine you don't want to exactly keep walking back and forth on a work site. So this little closet, you open it up, you see a little little shelf with cooktop. You see a slop sink in the corner.
That's it, bro. It's like most college dorms.
Yeah. But I was like, look, I mean that for me that it's thinking creatively, because especially in the city, you don't. What do you do? Stay in a hotel and pay $800? That doesn't. So I mean, there are ways to do this, and I think it goes right back to the challenge of, as a buyer, if you do decide to go down this route, there are options. I think before you scare yourself, maybe talk to a realtor and be like, hey, do you have contractors that you trust?
Of course.
And they'll walk you through the process and be clear here in terms of, I like to approach it of, hey, look, this is the space I want to use it for. What would you recommend? How would you do this? Right. And maybe they'll say, well, what's your budget? Well, right. Then fine.
Of course.
Or if you're very specific, like I want this, and this.
Yeah. If you're someone like me that like drew out exactly, like I knew the heights of my island and because I'm taller and my wife's taller, I wanted 40-inch, you know what I mean?
Nice.
So nice. You know what I mean? And I knew what I wanted, where I wanted it, like entirely functional. A lot of people don't think ahead when they create things, and then 6 months later, like, oh, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do this? Why, you know what I mean? So, but with buyers that are like hesitant about making moves in Reno, I think if you have the right person giving you good advice, if you're not thinking of it on your own, when you want something worth it, there's going to be a little bit of a sacrifice. Like, you're not going to get this new kitchen and new bathrooms with zero dust and zero noise. And there's going to be something dust.
Right.
It's like, what are you willing to put up with?
Right.
You know what I mean? I was willing to put up with the whole ordeal because I knew at the end the reward was worth it.
Your house.
I knew I'd have this beautiful new entire first floor, exactly how I want it. And still to this day, I look at it, I'm like, I love
my spot.
It's nice, So some people are not willing to
deal with
anything, and that's fine.
And for me, sometimes, like most times, I do understand, and then sometimes it's like a matter of, well, if you were to put this into perspective, it may be a couple months of stuff.
Yeah.
But if you are planning to live this on average, right? Let's use statistics, because I don't know, case by case. On average, you can be there for a decade.
Easy-ish,
right?
That's probably yeah.
So if you can be there for a decade, does a couple months really matter that much? I wouldn't say so. Assuming that once the process is done, like now you have your house. This is your home, right? I'm going to be interested in seeing if that shifts at all, because obviously the way this seems to pivot is kind of geared towards millennials. They're like, oh, these millennials.
Yeah.
But I mean, for me, as someone in that era, it's kind of, I understand, because both people are working, and now in our case, right, in our particular case, we got children, right? So it's like there are other things to this where it's not like someone's home could easily move stuff around. And like if I come home to a dust-filled house, and like some of these houses are older, some of them have asbestos, some of them have
absolutely.
And I now have to deal with do I need to now clean every time? Because God forbid Johnny comes in and sniffs like fragments.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
Absolutely.
But it's on the seller side, likewise, if you think or you're starting to lean towards, hey, look, I might be selling within the next 5 years, right? And look, that seems like a very long horizon. Who knows what? But I say if a renovation comes and if you could afford it,
of course,
go ahead and do it, right? And obviously make sure your financial fundamentals are the same.
If you have, if you definitely most likely know you will be selling at some point in the future, like we're talking 3, 4, 5 years, and you can't afford it, I would definitely advise it's in your best interest, because then you will get a return, because now the price of your home has increased just due to time itself. You know what I mean? But going to a buyer, some people, it's kind of like you're saving grace. You want a certain house, you want 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. You want a certain square footage, you want a 2-car garage. These are things you need for your family, for your right. But these houses in the neighborhood you're looking, you want them updated. They're 1.2 million.
Yep.
You don't have 1.2 million.
Nope.
You have 900. This is your out. This is you can get that house for 900.
Yep. But
do work.
Yep.
It's not going to cost you the 300 that you're leaving, but you can do the work. You got the house you want. You're going to have to sacrifice 6 months, maybe 8 months, and be frustrated and angry, and maybe the situation is gonna be very nerve-wracking and stressful and arduous. But in the end, you got your house. That's what I did.
Yep.
I got a great house layout. I loved everything, the space, and I got it for a really, really good value because it hadn't been touched in years.
Right.
I knew it needed to be gutted.
Nice.
And then not only did I get the house that I wanted, but it increased the value tremendously. And we can also talk about the market. But now 9 years later, my house is probably almost doubled what
you got it for.
Bought it for. Maybe 40% with my investment. But
and this is, I feel like this is where also agents worth their salt really earn their stripes, right? Like, because I can run comps. I can run comps all day.
Oh yeah.
And there are obviously people in our book of business where they say, look, Alex, no offense to you, but it's just I'm not ready right now. Like I'm not really in that space yet. Well, fine. But now if I'm thinking, like, son of a bitch, you put that seed in my head. Now do I want to move? When would I want to move?
Yeah.
Like, let me ask you something. If I'm thinking, I'm not selling right now, but let's say 3 years, 4 years, maybe Johnny's going to be off to college, and at that point, me and my missus, we don't need this house.
Yeah, we'll downsize or whatever.
Right. And so for me, it's like, well, then if you're asking me about rentals at that point, go ahead and enjoy your house. Enjoy your house. You know why? Because look, even if you don't use me as an agent, then you'll thank me then that you at least got to enjoy the house that you wanted.
Yeah.
Right now. For me, part of that issue here on the other side is, can you run comparable comps, right? And like, hey, I'm thinking about doing these cabinets, these floors. I'm like, look, based on the comps right now, things will change. Things will definitely change.
Sure.
But at least right now, this is the level of trim. This is the level of finish I'm doing. So anything beyond this, I would argue, is really just for you.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, don't expect
to get your money back for your imported Versace towel.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And on the buyer end, where I have, I think, excelled in is, like, for instance, some neighborhoods in Queens. I'm going to keep saying this. They adjusted the zoning or the ordinance in such that you could have additional square footage, and most buyers don't realize.
Yeah.
One of the easiest way for us to tell is as you drive down a block. If you notice, half the block are now 2-story mini mansions, but you have a couple, ranch style homes.
Yeah.
For me, that's a flag.
Yeah.
So as I go through this process, some of the buyers are like, "Hey, look, I mean, this is so much cheaper. It's so dated." Excuse me. And for me, that's your opportunity.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, if they updated just the main floor and now you want to do it in addition.
Yeah.
Right. And
you
for me,
money away.
Right. And so now I'll work out the math with you. Look, if this house is, say, $975, but the comps are coming back for these actually built up homes as 1.5.
Yeah.
Now let's run the math now. Right. Let's go talk to some contractor. Now, is this worth it for you?
Yeah.
Because now they might like, oh, I was thinking dingy kitchen, dingy bathroom, and I'm thinking, wait. So for almost just shy of $1 million, so now I don't have to pay the mansion tax. You're saying that I could, it's actually built into like a 4 or 5 bedroom house?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now you're in a situation where some people will find that actually a benefit. Now it's not the annoying hassle of, oh, I have to do this kitchen and bathroom. I get a new house.
Yes, I'm getting a new house, investment. I'm getting money. I'm getting, supplemental income.
Oh, yeah.
And then obviously when I do decide to leave, might be 10 years, the value of my house is going to be way higher than a single family.
Of course.
Right.
And I like that idea because, people do it every which way, right? I've heard of some buyers who just left it as is, and then right as they start having children, they're like, okay, instead of buying a new house, now we have this nest egg, right? So maybe we'll stay at grandma's, or you know what? Maybe we do a midterm rental. Maybe we'll rent a place out for 3 months while the construction crew is here, and if they're still not done with this phase of construction, get another midterm rental, or maybe we'll stay at grandma's, whatever, right? And especially in this day and age, where a lot of work is remote. I had a boy who was just like, look, we did midterm for 3 months. And they're like, sorry to tell you, buddy, but we got like easily another 3 months left because you added more stuff to it.
Yeah.
So he's like, all right, well, in that case, you know what? Me and my wife decided we were going to fly to Colorado. I think it was Colorado. And he was like, look, we stayed there for like 6 months.
I mean, if you can do that, if you can do that.
Yeah. And that's the other thing that I mentioned with if you're doing rentals, contractors have told me this repeatedly. If you want changes, be specific and let me know beforehand. Don't come in and like, oh, I think that's like a little too green. Let's change it. Then you're going to piss off your car.
Yeah, don't tell me you want to add a room when I already did the framing. And now I have to take down the framing and
And you still expect it done.
Yeah. Right? in the same time frame that the original plan was.
Right. I said, why is it like another 100,000? Because you changed the plans 3 times. The trails and all. Like, what do you want? What you expect, right? So these are little things to obviously talk to your contractors, but these are things where I would argue that a realtor who has done the work repeatedly will have a better insight on. And this, I imagine, changes from neighborhood to neighborhood and even from state to state, which is the most obvious thing. I will keep repeating that because people will say, well, not here in Georgia. I'm like,
and it's Georgia.
This isn't Georgia.
It's Georgia, absolutely.
And so, I mean, I think we're going to see more of that as there are going to be more folks who decide, you know what, New York City is maybe not for us anymore.
Of course.
And they decide to sell, but maybe they haven't touched their house in 30 years.
Yeah.
Right? Or more.
I mean, I'm a big fan of the 3 homes I've owned. I always gutted them.
And did it all?
The first co-op I lived in and then a condo. I gutted them and I made money on them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I was there for 4 or 5 years for each.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You made your ends.
Yeah. And then, when I sold it, it was a, updated, good property.
But to your credit though, I sense that you got good style, like you got good taste in general.
Yeah, I do.
It's not gaudy, it's not eccentric, but it's just
yes, yeah, it's different. Gaudy and eccentric is one thing. It can be quality, but tempered, classic. But again, you could do something classic, and maybe that one buyer that loves it, maybe they like gaudy. Maybe it's too tempered. Maybe it's too neutral.
Right, but then you know what? At that point, again, once you buy it, do what you want.
Yeah.
Right? Like if it's illegal, don't tell me about it. I mean,
it's crazy how it's all opinion based. How you and I can see a kitchen and be like, this is a really nice kitchen. Someone else come and be like, oh, this is it's got to go.
Yeah,
which has happened to me. And I'm like, what?
Like, really?
This is a beautiful. I hate white cabinets. I can't stand glass backsplash. I hate. I've gotten it all.
And like, there's nothing about this kitchen that screams like class. I'm like,
yeah.
What? I'm like, okay.
There are people that want subdued. There are people that want flashy, or
or they want the new doors that open this way and the port. I get it fine, But that's the beauty of home ownership.
Yeah.
Like, I get it, especially in our market. The affordability makes it really hard to have a budget for things like rentals, things like even remodels.
You're talking about, you're talking about kitchen 2 bathrooms. Now you're talking about your budget needs to be, $100,000 minimum.
Right, and that's not a small sum of money for a lot of people who are in that middle.
And you're not borrowing it. You have to have it probably.
Right.
I mean,
you can borrow it, but
construction loans and things like that, like Reno loans, and usually you use home equity or something like that. But for people, you're not including it in your mortgage,
right?
Because now your $80,000 Reno has interest, and it's going to cost you, $200,000 over 20 years. So you want to pay for that probably up front or during the renovations.
Yeah.
So you got to have that pretty much that cash on hand.
And from I guess from the CPA standpoint, that's what also gets me nervous. Say if you look, if you're doing remodels, if you're doing renos, save receipts, save your receipts, save your
Oh
receipts,
yeah,
save your
no
receipts.
doubt.
And make sure your CPA knows about it because they could classify it based on what it is. Look, if it's just trim, sorry, that's you're eating that cost, right? But maybe in the event where, let's say, you got to replace your HVAC system, maybe like the big stuff, big stuff, save those sheets, send them over, let them determine. And yeah, I mean, going forward, I think the way this trajectory is going to be is I think we'll see an interesting shift in terms of when push comes to shove, does it swing one way or another? Like, what are we going to reach an era where people are saying, you know what, I will actually take that credit. Just give me a discount on the sales price. We'll sign this and we're ready to go. Or is it really going to lean more heavily into like, if it's turnkey, I don't want it. If it's not turnkey, I don't want it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, speaking of speaking to sellers, if you know you're going to sell, your house hasn't been remodeled or renoed in 30 years, then yeah, I probably would advise not to do it right before you sell. Right.
Yeah.
We've established that.
It's money.
But there are other. If the roof hasn't been done, yeah, you can spend 10 grand on the roof.
Yeah.
And you know what? Now you're probably going to get a better return.
Oh yeah.
Because that's something that's extremely valuable, and it's not objective. It's not, I don't like new roofs, you know what I mean? And I hate new. I wanted an old roof and I wanted to do.
Oh, and bubbling up and crumbling.
I mean, but you never know. Maybe someone's like, I wanted to do a Spanish tile. You know what? But, invest in new hot water heaters or new furnace.
Like the capital expenditures.
You know what I mean? Because even painting, we talked about painting. Yeah, like if someone hasn't touched a house in 30 years, I might be inclined to say, a nice new paint job, new ceiling paint, new, paint all over. It's definitely going to present the house better. And it's probably not going to get you necessarily money back because someone could come in and be like, I hate these colors. I hate eggshell. I like glossy.
But it still looks fresh.
But it still looks fresh and it's presentable. Yep. And if it's presentable, you're much more likely to get closer or that number that makes you happy.
Right.
It's all about, looking clean. It's like if you're selling a car online, you're going to wash it, right?
Right.
You're not going to leave like your paperwork and stuff in the back and the car seat and the baby stuff.
$80,000.
Yeah. You're going to wash it, detail it, vacuum it. And you're going to, it's like anything else. You go on a dating profile, you're going to comb your hair and get a haircut. You're not going on unkept. You got to make it look presentable.
Of course.
You know what I mean? So there are things you can do, but do things that are worth it, that give actual long-term value to the buyer. Oh, great. I hate the inside of the house and I got to redo it, but new roof, new HVAC system, new hot water heaters,
new windows,
new garage door, like things like that. I don't gotta mess with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? These are things that are necessary.
Absolutely.
And these are where people look at when they're looking to buy a home,
Yeah, and you know what? If there are folks who are having issues where either look, you got a gut rental house, you're a hoarder house, or if someone in your family has a hoarder house and stuff like that. Look, we got investors for that. Look, if you want to sell it on the market, we got moves for that too. But I feel like oftentimes those the dilapidation has levels to that too, right? So if you guys have issues where look, no retail, we tried, the retail's not biting, and we're not budgeting on this price or whatever it is. If you guys get stuck in those situations, give me a call, email me. Alex, I'm sure, is willing to handle those as well.
Sure.
And the reason why I bring that up is because oftentimes this does require a lot more care and attention and stress that most people honestly aren't willing to take. Right? If I'm being honest with you, it's that. What's the price and what is the stress we're taking on for it?
Yeah.
Most people are not prepared for it.
Yeah. What are you willing to go through?
Right. And so people are like, wait, I have to deal with all this stuff. Like I've seen a hoarder house where, dude, I kid you not, stuff all around the house midway through.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're crawling, you see a hallway, you're crawling through filth. And I'm like,
and then that's before you empty it out. Like what's left after? It's probably unlivable.
Yep.
And, you know what I mean?
And for me, in my perspective, since I have crews that are doing gut rentals day in day out, well, for them it's nothing, right? Just we take all this, and we're getting dumpsters anyway. Why? Because we're gut renting the house either way. So it's not much more for us because we have economies of scale to say, you know what, leave all your stuff. I don't care. Furniture, just take your personal things that you want
to keep with you, and everything else we're going to throw in a dumpster anyway.
Right. Whereas a retail person, how dare, what the hell? They left the furniture, left mattresses, couches, and all this stuff. you left me a dumpster fire,
Yeah.
right? And they might get really really annoyed. I have situations where like it's not clean up. Either you're gonna credit us $1,000 or we're not buying this house. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing, but it's again quarter houses or houses that are really dilapidated and or just for whatever reason people are just done. We have moves for that too. So if you get those, I have investors that are willing to take those down. Let me know. But if it's a retail side, Alex, I'm sure you'll take care of those.
And if you're a seller or a buyer, you know, and you have these questions, I always say, like you said before, yeah, I mean, any decent realtor, decent, I say, he's going to do comps and things like that. But I don't. I think of myself as like a trusted advisor. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like I'm not like a young dude. I've been around the block. I've had my own experiences. I've been through renos and selling and buying my own properties. So you know, work with a realtor that has some experience with in life and their own experiences and people that can give you options and good advice. And whether you take it or not, you're presented all the options
Unless you're known, yeah.
as opposed to someone that just basically is a one trick pony and only knows how to do one thing. Yeah.
Just credit and sell, credit and sell, credit and sell.
Yeah,
Like
exactly. Like find solutions. Find someone that's going to have solutions or options of solutions, and then you make whatever decision is obviously best for you. But
because I'm gonna be honest and tell you the other flip side of this is if let's say you do have a dated or subpar in terms of quality home that you're looking to list and you're demanding market price or better, because I know I know for sure we both dealt with that situation. What's going to likely happen is your realtor is not a magician. They can't.
yeah,
They can't force people to come in here. Like if
sure.
you have buyers coming up and down the block and there are multiple houses in that,
Yeah.
and you see that yours is the worst condition, but you ask for more money,
For
no
more
one in
money.
their right mind is going to buy it,
Absolutely.
right?
You know,
So please take that into consideration. But yeah, this is why we like to present comps or comparables, right? We like to say these are the houses in your neighborhood that sold for this extra price, but these are also the conditions, right? If you're not sold on why that differential is there, look through those listings with them, right? And if the realtor is not willing to do that for you, then I'm sorry. Then at that point, maybe it's time for a new realtor.
I mean, I not only present like what is sold, I think, and sometimes even stronger, more indicative. I like to show people what has not sold, because if it's the things that haven't sold are in the price they want, I can say, have these sold? These haven't sold. And then I like to try and put the seller in a space. If you were a buyer, Mr. Seller, and you were looking at 3 similar homes, and 2 of them are 1.2 million in decent condition, and then house 3 they're asking 1.5 million, but it's in much nicer condition. It's updated. You got to ask yourself, is the condition it's in worth $300,000? You know, what are people willing to pay for something, right? If I'm looking for a house, I want a 2-car garage, and I find a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom. That's what I want. 2-car garage. There's one next door has a 1-car detached garage. How much more? Yeah, I'm willing to pay $40,000 more, right, $50,000 more for the 2-car attached garage, but I'm not willing to pay the $130,000 more you're asking. So it's about like, what would you be willing to pay? Usually, like when you put people in that position to think, as you know, they say, yeah, I guess you're right. I guess I wouldn't be willing to pay $250,000 more
for a
because
garage.
there's or because there's a new kitchen and 2 new bathrooms, because I can probably go get that done for $100, even if it'll take me 6 months of my time.
Of course. Right. And was it worth to you?
You know, who's picking the latter instead of the former?
Right.
So it's important you have a realtor to kind of give you different perspectives. These are perspectives people usually don't think of.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to gamble that we're still going to hear it day in, day out. But for those who do see this, hopefully it'll enlighten you. And if you guys still have questions, obviously you can feel free to reach out and ask. And with that said, where can they come find you?
You find me always at my office, Keller Williams Realty Landmark, baby. You can email me at lexp, at kw.com, and my number, 917-687-9041. Papa Sells Homes. I'm here.
And with that said, thank you for your time. And if you guys have any questions, again, reach out. Otherwise, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace. Uh,
Always good.
always fun.
Always good.